I'd like to give you a quick example of how we go about establishing information priority or information architecture in terms of content. This is an actual example from a project I worked on with a client, and I just want to give you a sense of how this works so that you can do it yourself and apply it to, again, either something that you're working on for yourself or something that you're working on for a client. Typically what happens in these situations is the client will, in general, have an idea of what they think the core information categories are, and they'll also come to you with what they believe to be most important. Okay, if you ask that question, they'll have a very definite opinion about that. So what we do is we start by listing the information categories, and we typically do that in the order in which they believe they're most important. So in this example, this is a financial services organization. We said, okay, core categories are event information, which events that they put on, webinars, seminars, things like that. Plan documents, which are the actual plans that they offer, insurance plans that they offer, the documentation that goes along with it, the services that are associated with those plans as well, company news, information requests where people fill out a form to say, yeah, I'm interested, I'd like you to send me more information, and then frequently asked questions. So this is the order of priority that they gave us. Event information was first, then plan documents, then plan services, et cetera, et cetera. The idea being that in their minds, this is what's most important to their potential customers or current customers in this order. Now, what we do after that is we say, okay, we want to talk to your actual customers. We want to talk to actual users. So what we did is we had 3 separate sessions. Each time we had 30 people in the group, okay, so 90 people total we talked to. These are all customers of the organization. Now, we did not ask them to rank these specific items, and the reason we didn't do that is because that's a leading exercise. You're constraining the conversation to these particular things instead of finding out what really matters to them. So instead, we ask open-ended questions. Of all the things that this organization does for you, what's most important? And can you tell us, what matters most, and then next, and then next, and then next. So from those 3 sessions, we did some analysis, and what we found out, as you might imagine, is that the things that were most important to users didn't always line up with the things that were most important to the company. It broke out like this. The thing that mattered most to customers was actually the frequently asked questions. That was first, okay? Because life insurance in particular is sort of this big leap of faith, and it's very gray and very murky, and it's filled with legalese. So there were a lot of questions. Like, I have all these questions and I don't know where to go for answers. So unanimously, a question and answer kind of thing is what came up first. Next, they said, okay, the services, the extra things that are attached to these plans are really important to us because, hey, we know we can buy life insurance, but guidance, advice, things like that along the way would be really helpful. So that was actually 2. On the heels of that, they said, okay, once we're interested in something, we want the ability to pull up all the documentation, print it out, and read it. This is an older crowd, so their whole thing is I need to be able to print it out, hold it in my hand, get a highlighter, and work through it. So that was 3. Next, once they got a certain degree of comfort and trust, they wanted more information. Okay, so the ability to fill out that form and say either have somebody contact me or send me more details was important. Next, the company news, it kind of didn't always come up, but what people did consistently say is we want some evidence that the organization is trustworthy, okay, that they've been doing this a long time, that they're reputable, they've been around, et cetera, et cetera. So company news gave people some comfort as to the sort of strength and solidity of the organization. And finally, there was some minimal interest in events. Like, yeah, okay, events, webinars, I get that, but I'm busy, I don't really have time for all that. So you can see in 2 spots in particular, there are some pretty big discrepancies between what the organization thinks is important to people and what people actually care about, okay? Those are the areas that we focus on when we're trying to develop information architecture. We say, okay, what matters most to people? Well, it's getting our questions answered, giving them a sense of comfort. Because if that doesn't happen, all right, if they don't get some comfort and trust early on, they're probably not going to take the next step. So this is paramount. Okay, the other big disconnect was event information. The company is investing a lot of time and money and content in events, and nobody really cares, okay? So this just illustrates how important it is to actually try to go to the source whenever possible. You want to talk to the actual customers, the actual users. If you're doing something for yourself and you don't know who your potential users are, that's fine. Or even if it's a client and you don't know who your potential users are, that's fine. Pull a bunch of people, pull 15 people, 20 people, get them in a room and talk to them for a half hour and listen to what comes out. You will undoubtedly learn a lot, and I will promise you that you will at least find a couple areas where their sense of what's important is very different from your sense of what's important.